I really do this for not just our program at Kimball, not just for the school, but also it's for the community. Yeah. You know, we represent something big over there. And I'll even throw Coach Love in at Carter. You know, Oak Cliff is a community. And, you know, we all support each other. I know one thing Coach would say, I would see him say on social media is, hey, we going to state. If you from this area and you're not rooting for us, what's up? But there's not a Dallas ISD basketball coach, football, that at least send me a text or a message, or if we post something, they'll come up under there and say, good luck, coach, y'all go get it. Yeah. So we're all backing each other. And, you know, being, you know, African-American coaches, that's something. I mean, we just saw it in the Super Bowl, you know, and people say, oh, we're not looking at it at them as that. They're just two quarterbacks. Well, at one time you didn't have two African-American, wasn't in the quarterback position in the NFL or in some colleges or in our positions, you know. And I know we're going to talk about this a little later during the show, but, you know, I'm proud. You know, I'm proud of my skin color, and I'm proud of being in the position that I am in. Coach Nicke Smith, head boys basketball coach at Justin F. Kimball High School, 2022-2023 state champion, just received my 400th win last week versus Roosevelt High School. Now they call me 401. They was calling me 400, now I'm 401.
Coach Todd, Jason Todd, South Oak Cliff High School, head football coach. Been to 4 state championships in a row. Lost the last 2, so it's kind of bad feeling right now. But, you know, we're just trying to turn football into a household name in the Oak Cliff area.
How have you been spending the off season since December after the state title game?
Really just back in the regular routine, working out, coaches meetings, kind of getting things lined up for the upcoming year. Keep reliving that the last 3 minutes of that past game, seeing what we could have did better, what we need to improve on. So just a lot of self-evaluation.
Mm-hmm. Is that something that kind of haunts coaches, like after those big games, and you still think about it?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
I just tweeted that actually this past weekend. That it's those moments you let slip away that haunt you the most, more so than when you think about all the good games and all the, the championships you did win. It's those few you let slip away that really haunt you.
It's almost like you're thinking about what could you have done differently. What substitutions, what moves you could have made, plays that could have been called.
Yep.
And that just sticks with you until the season starts the next year.
How do you move on from that?
You don't move on, but at the same time, it's a part of the game. And I was always told when you get knocked off the horse, the first thing you got to do is get back on. Bruce Chambers told me that a long time ago. We move on because we got a new challenge every year. And it's about playing the next 16 games for this upcoming season. And we got some good teams to play, the North Shores, the Duncanvilles, the Longviews. So, everybody still will be gunning for us. So it's a lot of things that we still have to uphold.
And then, Coach Smith, you're starting playoffs tonight. What's your mood going into this next run?
Well, I'm very excited for this next run we made. We went to state 3 years in a row from 2021 all the way to 2023, won the last one. And then when you get used to going, you don't want to go. I mean, that's all you know. Like Coach Todd said, they're going to state championships. You expect to be there every year, and your kids expect to be there. And last year we were young, and we got knocked out in the second round by Frisco Lone Star. And for the first time, normally we'll start workouts again maybe right after spring break, going into April. I asked those kids after the game, when they wanted to start. They said Monday. We lost on a Friday. So this run that we're making this year, it didn't start this summer. It didn't start this fall. It started that Monday last spring when we started practice. So I've been excited since then. Probably in a long time for the first time, going into tonight, we're very confident,
And then I know you grew up in Dallas, yes. And then you're from Shreveport.
Correct.
I was wondering if y'all could just talk about what it was like growing up in your respective communities.
Okay. Yeah, I grew up not too far from here in the South Dallas area, so I was able to see a lot of different things in life. A lot of things that I didn't want to experience in my life, a lot of things to stay away from. I had to make wise decisions. I had to, know when to go separate from some people that I grew up with. So, it was the best of both worlds, but it taught you a lot of common sense for life. And I did come from a good family, so I always had a good foundation at home, from my mother, my grandparents, my uncle. So, what I can say South Dallas is it taught me how to maneuver on the street level without getting involved in a lot of street things, but knowing how to go that separate way sometime. Back then people kind of protected you. You play football, y'all gone over there that way, this ain't the time to come around. So we were well protected growing up in my neighborhood. Had a lot of old folks staying on the street. So yeah, I kind of got the best of both worlds.
So I grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana, in an area called Twilight Meadows. In this neighborhood, there were prominent African-American families. Everybody in the neighborhood was African-American, but they were middle to middle upper class, depending. A lot of teachers, doctors, or people that worked at either AT&T, the plant, or General Motors. And everyone knew each other in this neighborhood, so everybody looked out for each other. And lifelong friends, things like that. And there were several high schools that some of us went to, but I went to Huntington High School. And it was only 10 minutes from our neighborhood. My mom being in education, she was an assistant principal at Southwood High School. My dad worked at AT&T for like 33 years or so. And we grew up in a really nice area. With that being said, I have long life friends that we grew up with and we all stuck together. Now, there was some activity, with gangs and stuff in other neighborhoods, but those guys kind of looked out for us because we were athletes. And like Coach kind of said, they kind of looked out and, hey, y'all go over there. This is going on over here. So, I saw things, but I never was around it to where I would get sucked in or pulled in. Plus, I was scared of my father. I had a mom, dad, and my dad was like, if you get involved in that, you're getting out this house. And I'm like, where am I going to go? So I pretty much stayed on the straight and narrow. You have ups and downs. You make mistakes as teenagers, but for us to be the age we are now, we are able to maneuver through those things and then try to give that to the younger kids and younger men and women that's coming up nowadays. And hopefully they listen. And there's a lot of things we had to find out on our own. Yeah. I've gotten in trouble before, but nothing major to where it would ruin my career or end what I was trying to do and going to college and getting to the next level.
How do you all kind of protect your kids now from kind of some of the things that you all grew up seeing or around?
It's not easy. Coach has way more kids than I do, but this is why we have what we call buffers, and those buffers are assistant coaches. Coach got probably more than he even really need over there, but then people talk about my staff. We both got probably the most. He probably had the most assistant coaches in football in the city. I got the most assistants in basketball, but it's a reason for that because those guys, we have to implement discipline, what we expect, our expectations, everything in our program. And you have to pass that down to those assistant coaches. And then they have to go and instill that in those young men or women, or young ladies. And so you have to have those buffers with each kid. I almost got a coach for each kid in my program, because it's just hard. And then you give them all this information, but you try not to give them everything because it'll overwhelm them. I had a young man, Tijon Brown, that played for me. He's at McNeese State, and he's starting point guard there now. And Tijon told me, he said, Coach, I miss high school. I said, why? He said, it was pure. He said, this college stuff is a business, Coach. And he said, whoever making the most money is going to have the ball in their hand right now. And he said, but, I'm working my butt off. I'm going to be all right. But he said, man, I really, really do miss it. I said, Tijon, we used to tell this stuff to you guys all the time, but we didn't give you everything because y'all would have seemed like we were crazy because we're just telling you all this stuff. We knew you were going to have to find us some things on your own, but at least you're handling it now, And that made me feel good to know that he's sticking with it, and not up and transferring, and then he ended up going into a starting role just the other day.
And Coach, how do you protect your players?
The biggest thing I always try to convey to them is, it's two ways I feel you learn things. Wisdom, that's from somebody passing it down to you, or experience. So we try to a lot of times keep them from having to learn by experience, but kids, even us grown-ups sometimes, we got to go through it in order to really learn the lesson from it. Another big thing is relationships, like Coach talked about. You know, I have a lot of coaches, but each coach may have a different relationship or a better relationship with an individual kid. And it's not a prideful thing. Just because I'm the head coach, it doesn't have to be, oh, it came from Coach Todd. You know, I'm a dictator and this is how it's supposed to be. Now, if another coach can get across to a kid better than me, the thing is about the message getting conveyed to the kid, you know, and getting whatever we want executed and done the proper way. So that's the biggest thing with me. Another thing, I always keep in contact, and I got a great coach, Coach Weefather.
Yeah.
He's the communicator for the entire program, you know. He runs the parents group chat, you know, so he's constantly dialoguing, you know, with parents. I mean, it just blow my phone up all the time, you know. They don't have school today. They don't have this today. This is what time you need to pick them up. You know, if you got a question, call me. I'm like, you know, so him doing that alleviates me from having to do a lot of other things, and a lot of other coaches can focus on other things because he really takes over that aspect. As long as you keep the kids in the middle, if the parents are here and the coaches are here and we keep the kid in the middle, you know, they don't have much wiggle room. You know, a lot of times kids want to play the coach against the parent or vice versa. You know, what we try to do is take that away because we've already communicated with the parent before the kid can even call them. So that's the biggest thing, just relationships, wisdom, you know, wisdom or experience.
And what inspired you all to want to become coaches in the first place?
I'll tell you this. Well, I started in DISD in 1990, August of 98. I was a chemist at a company and working in corporate, and lost my job. I was breaking too much. You know, you're going to break, you get 30 minutes, I was going an hour. And so, you know, I was a young guy. So interviewed a few places, and my mother was like, you know, DISD needs teachers, and they're giving a $2,000 signing bonus. I was like, what? So I had bills to pay, so I got in and started at John B. Hood, but it's Piedmont now.
Yeah.
And was coaching 8th grade football, wide receiver coach. So supposed to coach basketball my second year. Coach Wesley, he was the coach there at that time.
Yeah, Derek Wesley.
Yes, he came in and he said, "Hey man, you're taking classes at night. You're not gonna have time." I said, "Yes, I would." And he said, "No, I think you just need to focus on that, man. I'm gonna let somebody else have it." So, man, I was damn near in tears. And first school I went to in that area was Bryan Adams, and I walked in. A guy named Dan Drake walked up to me. He's the head basketball coach, and I just said, "Hey, do you need some help?" And he said, "Sure." And I started assisting him as volunteering over there. And I showed up for a game against North Dallas. Calvin Grisby was the coach. And Coach Drake had a root canal. And he said, "You're going to coach the game." And I was just nervous. I was like, "What?" And I coached the game and won. And that's when I knew that's what I wanted to do. And 4 years later, I was a head coach at Pinkston. I went to Kimball as an assistant right after that. Well, I went to Bryan Adams first full-time under Brian Luke. And then I went to Kimball under Snoop Johnson for 3 years. And then my first head job was Pinkston High School.
Really what made me want to be the coach was it wasn't like a job to me. You know, so I always loved sports, number one, so I've never really done anything besides coach and teach. Going to the old Carter games, you know, coming up through time, watching those games, being in the stands, you know, really wanted to be the next Freddie James. You know, I learned from a lot of different coaches. You know, I was privileged to work on Nicke Samples, and he was my high school coach also. I had Charles Walton, the middle school coach at Atwell, probably one of the most organized coaches I've ever been around. He was there for over 20-something years. Ricky Lewis. You know, I also learned from basketball coaches. I used to go in the gym just to watch the structure of basketball practice with Richard Bacon. Was the head coach at Lincoln. You know, I learned a lot from Goree also. You know, I'll never forget this one article I read where he was saying, our goal is to win by 20 points, but we ain't trying to win by 20 at one time. If we just beat you by 5 each quarter, that add up to 20. So, you know, that was a thought process that stuck with me for a long time. Plus, you know, watching South Oak Cliff all those years from the girls and boys, going back to Gary Blair, you know, my grandfather and things like that. So I was accustomed to seeing a lot of winning things, mainly in track and basketball. And I always wanted to be, you know, a coach or a reason why that same success could be done in football. And I think we're on our way there. We haven't got there quite yet where we want to be, but I think we're on our path. So I just really want to be the next Freddie James and take it to the next level.
Yeah.
You've both won state championships, and we're seeing more black coaches do that as well. How significant is that?
Well, I want to say this, and I said this in a post-game interview. after state, the first 2 years it was about, everybody say you have to get that monkey off your back. You need to win a state championship to solidify yourself in the state of Texas, especially being from Louisiana and coming in here in a big school district and trying to make a name for myself. I made it about me. But the third year, I made it about the kids. And I said I was going to watch them enjoy it, and that meant everything. And it was surreal. It was a beautiful thing just to watch those kids jumping up and down versus the first 2 years when I was trying to win it because I wanted to feel a certain way. And, I never looked at it as, oh, I finally got one type thing. But now it's like, okay, I got one, let's go get another one, and I really do this for not just our program at Kimball, not just for the school, but also it's for the community. Yeah. We represent something big over there. And I'll even throw Coach Love in at Carter. Oak Cliff is a community. And, we all support each other. I know one thing Coach would say, I would see him say on social media is, hey, we going to state. If you from this area and you're not rooting for us, what's up? Yeah. And we all there. I'm watching on TV, but everybody's going to the game. Everybody trying to get on the field. People that's not even involved with soccer, they want to get on the field because they just want to be a part of that. And that's what it's about. Not everybody go to the state championship in basketball as far as from here to go watch the games. But there's not a Dallas ISD basketball coach, football, that at least send me a text or a message, or if we post something, they'll come up under there and say, good luck, coach, y'all go get it. Yeah. So we're all backing each other. And being, African-American coaches, that's something. I mean, we just saw it in the Super Bowl, and people say, oh, we're not looking at it at them as that. They're just two quarterbacks. Well, at one time, you didn't have two. African-American wasn't in the quarterback position in the NFL or in some colleges or in our positions, And I know we're going to talk about this a little later during the show, but, I'm proud. I'm proud of my skin color, and I'm proud of being in the position that I am in.
Yeah, I say the first thing, kind of two-sided. The one thing Coach has is that he had forefathers, former Kimball coaches that has achieved what he was trying to achieve. So it's more like a brotherhood, a lineage that's passed down through time. And that could be a tremendous asset to you. When you can still reach back to 20, 40, 30 years ago and still talk to the coaches that helped lay the blueprint that he's now carrying on. In my particular situation, it was a little tougher because it was something that hadn't been done. So I really didn't have a lot of guys that I could go lean back on that had experience where we were trying to experience. So, that was one tough part right there. As far as being an African-American coach, I feel like I think we're on the way to kind of going up where we should be going. I think it's some great African-American coaches. I think some great Hispanic coaches. I think it's some great coaches in a lot of different races that I heard to coach football. The thing that I think what's kind of blew it up lately was the fact that Duncanville Sock and DeSoto were able to win a state championship, and Claude Mathis was able to beat the coach of Summer Creek, who was an African-American coach. This past year, I lost to an African-American coach. And if you look at his bloodline and lineage, the school is named after his father. His father's a prominent guy down in the Houston area, so we really were two people playing who had people in our family. My grandfather has a school named after him. His father has a school named after him. So, a lot of people don't blow up that story probably as big as it could be. That means there was a lot of educational stuff before the two younger pups came up just to coach some football. But, I feel like I got some great coaches. I know great coaches in the district and around the area that are all different colors. And what I'm trying to do is get to a point where when I win, it's not just tagged as the African-American win. I want to be mentioned with Todd Dodge, Buchanan, a lot of those guys that have set the standard for the state of Texas, Reginald Samples, Alan Wilson, people like that. Because if you look at it, in the last 2 years we had a chance. No African-American coach of football has ever won 3 straight titles. Yeah. And we dropped the ball as a program, and it wasn't about achieving that for me personally, but it was just something that maybe we wasn't ready for that success or to have that particular honor on our back because maybe we got to do some things a little bit different, a little bit better to prove that we really earned it right. So, we gonna keep working and grinding. The best is yet to come, and I think there's so many coaches around that can do a phenomenal job if they're just given the resources and given the opportunity. And sometimes it's not about the experience, because sometimes you gotta, somebody took a chance on me. I wasn't the first hire at South Oak Cliff. They took a chance on me, but it was a passion and something deeper inside me to want to be successful, and I surrounded myself with like minds.
What challenges, if any, have you faced just being black coaches in, predominantly white space?
Acceptance, man.
Yeah. Sometimes for me coming up underneath Coach Samples, it's like, Coach Samples has a different type of personality, where if you don't really know him, you kind of don't understand him. So, sometimes I'm viewed as, he just like Samples. So, some older coaches, when we playoff negotiating, they'll try to handle me in a way, but not knowing that you're not going to handle me. Now we can go back and forth. But, I've had some negotiations where, they tried to come at me like kind of little man me and kind of talk to me like I don't know what's going on. But they didn't realize, I was at Lincoln, we went to state championship, and he allowed me to see the negotiations and how things were going behind the scenes all those 14 years as an assistant coach underneath him, that I was more prepared when I got to the head job, where it wasn't my first rodeo, even though it was my first time driving the car.
Yeah, and you learn from the guys in front of you, like he said. When I was, Snoop Johnson's assistant, every time we sit in the office, he would always tell me some things. And then when I became a head coach, it would come back up in my mind. I said, I remember he said, don't do this, or do this way, or make sure you feel this out like that. Coach knows like I know. Coaching is the last part. There's so much paperwork and things you got to manage, just to, y'all see the ending result on Friday night with him, but you don't know what it took to get to that point through the week.
Yeah.
And things you have to deal with all those kids and players and outside, distractions and parents and things like that. And, in my situation, it's no different than a lot of other coaches. There were some obstacles and things like that. I recall working at camp one summer, and I just came from this 5-star camp, this big camps they were gotten. You're in there, you're working your butt off as a camp coach, So then I go to another type of camp that was a little bit more watered down, and I'm in there doing the same thing. And this one guy, he tells me I wouldn't be able to coach my way out of a grocery store. And I remember I was just talking to Coach Val Rhodes, used to be the head coach at Spruce.
Yeah.
This was in 2000. And I remember that, and he didn't invite me to come back to the camp. And I remember Val told me, he said, man, just keep doing what you're doing. And shoot, you talking about, that was 2000. Look at me now. I won state championships. I had Coach of the Year awards, all kind of stuff. But for some reason, it just sticks in my head. And Coach Rhodes, he DM'd me last night, and he said, man, I'm so proud of you and what you've been able to accomplish. And I said, Coach, you remember when old boy said, I won't be able to coach my way out of a grocery store. I'm always wondering, where is he? What is he saying right now? But that motivated me to stick with this. And, it hadn't been easy. We've had things happen. Just from the incident we had in San Antonio a couple of years ago, and all the things that was being said on social media, I should be gone, I should be fired, and things like that. And it almost broke me. But once I got my thoughts and my mind back together, I came back in with a less talented team. And we went 33-2 and won a state championship. So it was even more sweeter than the years before going. And like Coach said, we probably weren't supposed to win those state championships. I don't know if that group or even my coaches and myself, our heads would have blew up. You wouldn't be able to tell us nothing. But it was bittersweet winning that one because I was more humble. Yeah. And just the accolades that came with it is nothing I was seeking or asking for. But everybody was like, you deserve it. And I didn't feel like it because I just, I was more happy for the kids. And, like I said, it worked out how it was supposed to work out.
What's the time that you all had to be there for an athlete off the court or off the field?
I'm just going to give you different scenarios. A kid's mother passed away. As he's finna go to school, he walks in the room, finds a deceased. He calls a coach. It's been 4 o'clock in the morning. The kid been out driving with no ID, get pulled over by the sheriff. The only way that they're not going to arrest him is if he can get in contact with me, and I've verified who he is, and he gonna let him go on home. I've had to go be character witnesses in trials dealing from murder
Me too. Me too.
to robbery to a bunch of different things. So, it's a wide web of things. Going to funerals for kids, things like that. Seeing a couple of kids deceased, pass away while they're still in high school and having to actually go through that as a coach. So. Our web, and I know it's the same over there. It's a wide web of different aspects we have to be there because a lot of kids sometimes don't have that structure at home. And, sometimes it could be a kid that's staying with his mother. And, he's starting to feel like he's grown, and mama can't tell him nothing. She knows she got a resource in us that if need be, he can't whoop all of us. So, the coach staff, we're going to be wherever we need to be to get the job done. To put these kids in position to be successful. And it's not always welcome sometimes.
And people look at us, they say, well, how do you mentor? And I know one thing you talk about, it ain't just mentors. We got to be father figures. At times we don't. We got our own families.
Yeah.
And I remember we had a parent call and get, years ago when Kofor was there, and got the track coach, the football coach, me as the basketball coach, and one of his mentors. We were all on a 4-way call, and she said, I want my son to play every sport. That way I will know where he is 2 hours every day after school. And we had to agree on that. And that was his sophomore year. And we had to do it. And he still had his little hiccups. I remember one night a kid called, and he was so mad it had iced over. It was snow on the ground. Everybody's packed in the house. He's staying with his dad at the time. He gets into it with the girlfriend. The dad and him gets in a fist fight. He leaves. And he calls every coach on our staff on the phone telling us if we don't come get him, something going to happen. We need to come pick him up. And he's walking down the street in the snow with his shirt off down the highway somewhere. And I said, you better take your butt and go back in that house because nobody's getting out in this ice and this snow. But that kind of stuff. And you're at home on a snow day having to deal with that on the phone. And that's just a small part of it.
Yeah, it's
It's a
lot, because a lot of kids need a lot of different love in different ways. You know what I'm saying? And it's time consuming. Sometimes it can have you neglect your own family to a degree because you're trying to be there for so many other people that sometimes you don't actually take care of some things you might need to on the home front. And that's one negative of coaching and really being consumed in your job is that sometimes you actually neglect the home.
Unconsciously.
Yeah.
And like mentally, you say you've been to funerals and trials. How do you move, get over that and keep coaching mentally after something like that?
You don't. I mean, it's just another story that keeps replaying in your mind. We lost a kid named Pat Hill. Was a great kid. Sophomore, wasn't a trouble kid. Was going to be one of the top safeties in the country. He was just innocent bystander at a party. His cousin was DJing. And we had just lost in the state championship game. So it was about 2 weeks over Christmas break, I believe. And he was just innocent bystander, shot one time in the chest, and was no longer here. Even going back to high school, that's why I'm talking about my upbringing. I lost at least 4 or 5 classmates before we were seniors that were killed, growing up. So, a lot of times to these kids, what you conceive as death is like a big thing, to them becomes normalized, and it's just another day, growing up in the hood per se. Cat, the first person to ever be sentenced for capital murder as a minor. Me and him were in the same art class, and then next day I looked up, he was in jail, and been in jail since that day as a freshman in high school. He still hadn't seen the regular world. So you just think back, that's about 34 years ago.
Life.
Yeah, look how much life I've experienced that he never got to do, about decision made at a very young age.
Something I've noticed about you, Coach Todd, is you're not afraid to be yourself, especially
Twitter.
online, and you rep the hood, like you're proud of that. So I was just wondering, what's your mindset just behind how you present yourself?
Just kind of be yourself. I was always taught when I was growing up, if you're yourself and people don't like you, That's their right. But at least they're gonna respect you for being real and being yourself. You just never want to be fake and kind of personify something that's really not you. You just want to be yourself. And where I come from and the things I've seen, those experiences made me who I am, and it has me to be able to relate to these kids. Like I can relate to a kid that don't have a father. I'm 48. Well, I think right now I never met my father a day in my life. So I can tell a kid it mean it. Like you can't use that as no excuse. There's still a lot of male figures around that you can use for that same type of guidance. And then if you want to emotionalize it and talk about it and get through, we got some counseling for you. We got people that handle those type of things. So just don't allow your situation to determine where you're going to be in life. And that's my biggest thing. Just be yourself, man. If you're from South Dallas like I am, I'm from 44 Oakland. I'm proud of being from 44 Oakland, and that's etched in my heart forever because those experiences have propelled me to go on to college, to come back and work in that neighborhood, and now to be in the position I am, representing Oak Cliff. But that's where my mama went to school. My granddad was principal there 14 years. My uncle graduated there. He was a neurosurgeon. She was an accountant. My uncle got conned, and my other uncle got conned to going in the Skyline because he didn't want to go under school because my granddad was the principal there then. But my granddad knew they redid the lines. He would have went to vet, but he didn't tell my uncle that. So, I've seen the best of both worlds with all this stuff. And, I'm happy to be from Dallas. I don't really want to go nowhere else.
There was something I put up on social media a while back, and it says, before becoming a coach, you should know it's lonely. Not all your players will like you. Not all of your parents will like you. You will unknowingly neglect your family. You will be blamed for most losses. You'll do a lot of work for little pay. Most will only measure you by games won. Yep. Your mind never rests, so you don't sleep well. You have no off season. You will only be able to trust a few people. So if it's not your passion, you will not last. And I put, there's a college coach on each one of these. I did that. And I know Coach can attest to some of the things I said. That's right. I ain't slept well in months. And we winning.
Yeah. And that's the one thing that people can tell you, my girlfriend will tell you. No matter what, that's one thing about it. I don't know why, but I'm always going to sleep good for some reason.
I don't.
Like, even when we lost state championship, everybody calling, hey, how you doing? Man, I'm knocked out of sleep, because, like the old folks say, joy cometh in the morning, so.
Coach, I took some Theraflu last night. I don't even have a flu. Nighttime.
Yeah.
Just so I could try to sleep some.
Yeah, that's one, I don't know why, but I'm always get my rest for some reason.
I guess, where's some challenges that you all kind of maybe didn't know about before coming a head coach? Like you this is a passion, something I think would be real cool. What are some unforeseen things that have happened?
Well, in my case, sometimes dealing with, you got a big game that night, and then you having to deal with a freshman or a JV parent. That's some stuff that probably could wait, that they want to talk about their kid and things like that, or just the in and outs of everyday thing that goes along with coaching, the paperwork for one.
Yeah.
It's just so much stuff we got to do, and like with, PAPFs, certifications, just if you could just go to work, and I teach, what I'm saying? I know Coach chilling, but I got a class. And so then I got to do that kind of stuff, and then you got all this stuff you got to do. I'll never forget, I had an assistant principal come in one year. That was our first round playoff game. He's no longer at Kimball anymore. But he came and did my 45-minute spot observation that day and didn't tell me he was coming. Most asked, hey, what day I'll come through that day because I know you got a game on that day and you're trying to get everything ready. He came that day. And I was looking at him like, man, I got this game.
Yeah, that's personal.
That's just personal. I mean, it was just, and you're trying to do everything you can to get the boys ready and making sure they're where they're supposed to be, making sure they eat. Yeah. I know Coach got people in place for that. It's a little different for basketball. We do too, but I still got to oversee all this stuff. Yeah. That's just a small portion of it, and I know Coach got some stuff because it's always something, let me say that. But we're doing it because we love it, but there are challenges that come with it, and a lot of times it's, You know, you get a kid, you thinking everything's great. You don't know where that kid slept at last night.
Yeah.
He might have slept on the floor, then sleep in the bed, and he woke up cranky and just come to school with an attitude. First thing in the morning, you don't know if him and mom got into it and she put him out last night and he didn't tell nobody, but then he comes the next day, at least he's there, but he's just all over the place and you got a big game, you don't know what's wrong with him. Dealing with things like that just come up when you think everything's smooth, or the next morning you receive 3 phone calls behind some mess and you're thinking everything's good, but by the time you get to your car and you're driving to work, you're already having to deal with some stuff. That's every day.
Yeah. 24/7 too. I would probably say the biggest thing when I got into coaching, I knew it would be a lot of kid-related things, from, discipline issues, just the recruiting aspect, a lot of those things. I would probably say the biggest thing for me is learning to deal with adults, because that's the part as a coach you never really think of, but you also have to be able to navigate the grown folks in the room, because you got different personalities. You got one coach that may be a very flamboyant guy. You got another coach that may be kind of laid back. You got a coach in the middle. You got a needy coach. You got this type of coach. So you got to deal with so many different attitudes and just makes up of the grown folks that I think that's probably, you talking about a staff, like you said, like about 20 people. So that means I'm orchestrating 20 different individuals that's on the ground folks before we even get to the kids.
Yeah.
And it's just like if you over this building right here, you're dealing with a lot of individuals in order to make the whole team operate. And that's a big thing. I also like how Coach just said, about knowing about these kids, what they're going through at home. And that's where it comes back where each coach has a relationship, because that coach may go in the group chat and be like, hey, man, this such and such, he may be tripping today. Somebody talked to him. I talked to his mama. They got into it last night. Hey, this such and such and such and such. This kid didn't eat last night. Hey, somebody, let him go in the coach's office and get something to eat. So all those things really away from the actual game, it's the day-to-day of the operation that has nothing to do with football that people don't see. That's probably the most consuming, along with paperwork like he talked about, along with, with a lot of people jealous of you because of the success you're having.
Yeah, I have to deal with that.
Yeah, and a lot of people, you got to look at it. It's people that's mad that Kimball been winning state championships since the, late 80s?
Yeah, they'll tell their kid don't go there. Don't go to school there. They'll tell them go everywhere else, but don't go there.
Yeah, so, that's kind of what it's becoming with soccer football now. The success breeds why they winning over there now. They must be doing something wrong. Something ain't right over there. There ain't no inner city school supposed to win. Why do families bring their kids back to that community that they went to that they may have moved away from? You know what I'm saying? When it's supposed to be such high crime and poverty around. But they don't understand it's our relationship based, because I went to Lincoln because Dr. Lewis was the principal over there. That was the only reason why I went to Lincoln. And even though I stayed in that community. But, it's a lot of stuff just relationship-based and dealing with grown folks.
If you had a chance for your child to go to your alma mater, would you not send them there in 8th grade, 9th grade, going to 9th grade? Especially if it's a good person, you're going to do that. You said, man, I played there. I want my son to play there. I want my daughter to play there. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
How can, because you mentioned all these different things that you have to navigate, how can the sports community better support Black coaches and athletes?
Resources, would you say?
Yeah, resources.
Say resources. There's, I will say our district does a pretty good job getting us what we need, stuff like that. But and I know we got 22 high schools, I believe, something like that. Yeah. That's a lot of high schools to manage for anyone, from the superintendent all the way down to our athletic director and athletic department. But, and they were fortunate to get their school upgraded. It's one of the better looking high schools, I think, in DISD right now. We're hoping to get more stuff at our school, but, when you get a kid in the 8th grade or 7th grade or whatever, and they go to these schools, like in the suburbs and everything, they see all this stuff. Yeah. It's just like on a college, why all these universities are upgrading their facilities. And you go in, Alabama's going to look different from Miami. Miami going to look different from Texas. Texas going to look different from Texas A&M. So if I go out there and I see all this stuff and I'm looking, I want to go to school here. But now I can walk in a soccer, or I can walk in a Skyline, I can walk in a car and I see a brand new gym, or I see a field, or I see this. Okay, I see the weight room. This looks nice. And so that's something that we kind of fighting to get back over at ours, to get these type of upgrades at our school right now. You know, and you know, just trying to get the kids back, you know, in the inner cities, you know, and in our schools. People are starting to move back into Dallas, which is a very good thing. In areas, you know, you see gentrification going on and some upgrades being in certain areas. And I'm hoping to get more and more, there more apartments and stuff being built so we can get our numbers back up, you know, at our school, because it helps. We got majority of our schools in Dallas are black and brown kids, you know, African-American and Hispanic kids. And just like Coach, we want to get more of our Hispanic kids more involved at the Kimballs, the Carters, the South Oak Cliffs. You know, we got some, but like our school, we have a lot. And they're starting to come into football more now. You know, Coach Bam's doing a good job with that. I got a couple in basketball. You get a couple in track now versus just soccer and baseball and those sports. And we want to make our school inviting to all, you know, races and walks of life. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm telling you, sometimes you can be at a school and you see more of us than that particular race of students. And they may think, you know, it's their school. This is not for us. We may need to transfer over here where we have more people looking like us. Yeah. The good thing about our schools is that we have a more diverse coaching staff now, because we want to bring all kids in, and that's what it's about.